Let my soul bless Yahweh, the great King. For Jerusalem shall be built up with sapphires and emeralds and precious stones, thy walls and towers and battlements with pure gold. And the streets of Jerusalem shall be paved with beryl and carbuncle and stones of Ophir. And all her streets shall say, Hallelujah. And they shall praise him, saying, Blessed be Yahweh, which have extolled it forever.
Behold, I will lay thy stones with fair colors, and lay thy foundations with sapphires. And I will make thy windows of agates, and thy gates of carbuncles, and all thy borders of pleasant stones. And all thy children shall be taught of the Lord, and great shall be the peace of thy children. In righteousness shalt thou be established. Thou shalt be far from oppression, for thou shalt not fear, and from terror, for it shall not come near thee.
The Lord promised better things for us, okay? Because the Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, has a favorite people. And he's going to give this favorite people a heavenly kingdom. A kingdom that's blueprinted and formatted and patterned after his mind. How he want a kingdom to be.
The glory of Lebanon shall come unto thee, the fir tree, the pine tree, and the box together, to beautify the place of my sanctuary. And I will make the place of my feet glorious.
A kingdom that's blueprinted and formatted and patterned after his mind. How he want a kingdom to be.
For brass I will bring gold, and for iron I will bring silver, and for wood brass, and for stones iron. I will also make thy officers peace, and thine exactors righteousness.
A kingdom that's blueprinted and formatted and patterned after his mind. How he want a kingdom to be.
And the city was pure gold like unto clear glass. And the foundations of the wall of the city were garnished with all manner of precious stones. The first foundation was jasper, the second sapphire, the third chalcedony, the fourth an emerald, the fifth sardonyx, the sixth sardius, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth a topaz, the 10th a chrysoprasus, the 11th a jacinth, the 12th an amethyst. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls. Every several gate was of one pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, as it were transparent glass.
A kingdom that's blueprinted and formatted and patterned after his mind. How he want a kingdom to be.
Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashum, Yahweh Shai, Bahashum, Makakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to us younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful lake out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful lake, the believers, the listeners who may have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. All right, and what I want to get into today, dealing with, the job market, all right, which is becoming, a nightmare, okay, here in America, man, okay, and this is all prophecy, that we see happening, because America would be, all right, the focal point of end time judgment, all right, because the Lord, he's pissed at the entire earth, okay, and more than, anything else, all right, he's pissed at America because America has been the wicked influence, okay, in the earth, okay? And when you go into prophecy, let's start out here. This is in GNT, 2nd Ezra 8 and 50 says, the people of this world who have lived their lives in pride and arrogance will suffer many things in the last days. Okay? So as we see, the complaint of the people, becoming louder and louder, more frequent. Okay, more people, are being reduced, to poverty. All right, here it is. You have professionals, okay, people that are nurses and, supervisors and, okay, professionals, okay, that are having to go to food lines, and get, a food assistance. Okay, it's getting to the point to where people can't even, working people can't afford to feed themselves, man. You know, feeding yourself is becoming a luxury in a society, all right, that's known to be proud, wasteful, okay, arrogant, okay, and what we're seeing is pride is being brought low in the earth, okay, as people are losing their ability, to provide for themselves, man, and these are all things that's coming from Yahweh Bashem Shai, the Lord intentionally put a cruel Lord, okay, of the American people. And see, the beautiful thing about it is these people trust in this system where they're at the mercy of this cruel Lord. You see, the elect, we're at the mercy of Yahweh Bashem Shai. Okay? And that's why the Lord, he's constantly making a way. And also we're appreciative. The truth teaches us to be appreciative, man, of the simple things. Okay? And the Lord, he's making a way. All right, for his people, because we're at the mercy of Yahweh Bashem Shai. Okay? Well, these people, continue, to trust in this system. All right. These people have trust in these careers, the economy, the 401k, everybody had it figured out. And, but now it's getting real blurry out here. All right. The scriptures say the glass will be darkened. You see? So let's go from here. It said the people, read this again. It said the people of this world who have lived their lives in pride and arrogance will suffer many things in the last days, man, and we're in those last days. Okay, so let's go from there. I want to get this in the AMP, the book of Isaiah. Then I have this video that I want to go into. All right, this is the book of Isaiah, chapter 19, and this is in AMP. It says, the Lord Yahweh Bashem Shai has mixed a spirit of distortion within her. Her leaders have called Egypt to stagger in all that she does. As a drunken man staggers in his vomit. As a drunken man staggers in his vomit. You see? So the Lord, all right, has caused Egypt, all right, to stagger through what? Poor leadership. Okay, see, the Lord has appointed and ordained the poor leadership of America, man. Okay, which has enchanted you people, dumbed you people down, dealing with the technology, how, it's having a major impact on people's cognitive, functioning, to the memory is terrible. And we suffer from particular things too, but the spirit keeps us sharp. See, we have the Holy Spirit. See, you're just out there enchanted, so you're being dumbed down. Okay. You're being poisoned, at every turn. You see what is, the juice, the food, the dish, the drugs, you see? So America's in a bad place, man. All right. It's set up for a hard fall. It's staggering. Okay. And it's going to keep staggering. And it's going to have a hard fall. Okay. So read on to verse 15. It said that there will be no work for Egypt, which head or tail, high palm branch or low bull rush may do. Yeah. So from these high corporate jobs, You know, because a lot of these job losses have been, you know, the corporate jobs, man, because AI is making its way up the ladder. Okay. Now, you know, a associate's degree is nothing. Okay. Associate's degree means nothing. AI is wiping out these associate level jobs, man. Okay. And it's going to keep climbing. All right. So you have people that's going to college for nothing. They're being replaced while they're in the classroom. All right. The goddamn devil, man. While you in the classroom studying and cramming and, you know, big ass Red Bull. Okay. This nigga is building a program to replace your ass, man. You see? All right. So the job market, and this is all prophecy, all right, is being slashed. Okay. Verse 16 says, in that day, the Egyptians will become like helpless women. Okay. And they will tremble and be frightened because of the waving of the hand of the Lord of hosts, man. Okay. And you people are hopeless. All right. To what's happening. There's nothing you people can do. Okay, you can only get so many jobs. So if people just try to work more hours, get multiple jobs, get this side hustle, well, you can only do that so much, and you're constantly being priced out of everything because the money that you're chasing is being devalued. Okay, you see, people got 2-3 jobs, you know, two full-time jobs, you know, 2-3 gig apps. Okay. You see, but nah, man, the Lord got to where you people are just going to be helpless out here, man. You know, because when society break down, well, who's the most vulnerable? The women. All right, and the Lord has it where everyone is helpless, man. Okay, outside of the elect. Okay, because we know our help exists outside of this realm. It doesn't come from, all right, the so-called white man in this system, in this, you know. We use this word while it's up and functioning, but we know that there's coming a time, okay, where we're, all right, going to have to fully depend on our power, man. You know? So we're seeing the Lord waving a hand at this place, and he's doing it through the prophets, man, because while the prophets are speaking, things are getting worse. Okay? Just how Moses, all right, spoke, you know, spoke the collapse of ancient Egypt, where he has his prophets in these latter days, okay, speaking the collapse of modern Egypt, man, waving the hand at this place, all right, and that ultimate hand wave is when he sent that right hand, Yahweh Shai. That's what it's building up to, okay. So let's go from there. Matter of fact, let's get that in Exodus real quick, and then we'll go into, I believe it's Exodus 7. Yep. Hey, I will stretch out my hand. Okay, it said, then the Lord Yahweh Bashim al-Shah said to Moses, now hear this, I make you as the Most High to Pharaoh. So like I will make you as God to Pharaoh, you know, like Elohim, you see, to declare my will and purpose to him, and your brother Aaron shall be your prophet. Okay, so the Lord made Moses like unto a God unto Pharaoh, speaking plagues into existence, man. Okay, so this is what we see happen in real time. The Lord has many prophets raised up, okay, to declare his will and purpose, all right, in the earth, man, beginning with the elites on down to the common man, all right. So the will and the purpose of the Most High is standing. Everything else is failing, man. Nothing is going to stand against, all right, the prophecy of Yahweh Bashim al-Shai, his will. Okay, the will of the Lord is beating things to powder, man. Okay, and his job market is on the chopping block. Okay, so let's go from there. I want to get this video, and he breaks down some things of how we got to this point. You know, certain things that these devils been doing, and that's all these devils have been doing, and scheming and plotting in the background. okay, and destroying, okay, this system. All right, it's a controlled demolition. Okay, but ultimately, what the elites fail to realize is the Most High that's in control, not them. Okay, because the Most High eventually he's going to take, these elites into uncharted territories, man. Because they're used to being in control and 2-3 steps ahead, and they're used to pushing the buttons and pulling the levers and things happening. But eventually, the Most High is going to take them, okay, into uncharted territories, man. Okay, and they're going to be tormented. You see? So let's play this.
Politicians keep telling us the job market is strong because stocks are hitting all-time highs, CEOs are bragging about record profits, and companies are worth more than ever before. But in reality, people are getting laid off in record numbers. New graduates can't get hired, side hustles are needed to survive, and even if you have a job, you're very likely in a constant state of anxiety over the fear of being let go.
Unless you've been on a job search in the last 2 years, you do not know how bad it is out here.
How do we explain to our parents that we are applying to jobs? I've literally applied to 1,500 jobs this week, and I haven't gotten anything.
Can someone explain to me how I have 4 degrees and still can't get a job?
To truly understand how things got so bad and why the job market is crumbling, we need to go back to before 2008, when boomers and Gen X lived in what economists called a golden era. Unemployment was low, college diplomas actually landed you a job, and wages were growing. The American dream was very much alive. If you worked hard, you could build a great life, but under the surface, things were starting to break. By the mid-2000s, net productivity had started growing faster than wages can keep up, meaning paychecks weren't growing nearly as fast as they once did. But still, job security was strong and everything was fine, until it wasn't.
What if you can create your own website by saying, this is what I want? With Wix, you can.
It was the worst day on Wall Street since the crash of 1987.
On the basis of employment, it's doing about as poorly as you can imagine.
In a matter of months, unemployment jumped from 4% to over 10%, the highest in decades. Millions of people lost their job, with many being out of work for 6 months, a year, or even longer, which, though pretty standard now, was almost unheard of at the time. And millennials got absolutely destroyed. Many were recent graduates early on in their careers, and because of this, they were the first to be fired when companies started getting entire departments just to avoid bankruptcy, and then they struggled to find another job. The housing bubble had burst, banks collapsed, and the financial system almost imploded under its own greed. Regular workers didn't cause any of that, but they were the ones to pay the highest price, losing savings, homes, livelihoods, and due to the fallout, their wages were suppressed for the next decade. Meanwhile, the government provided bailouts for corporations and banks, saving them from losing everything. Yet, despite the Great Recession being so destructive, it was only the start of the problems we face today. From 2010 to 2019, people like to say that things were recovering, but it never really felt that way unless you were looking at a stock chart. On paper, things looked great. Unemployment fell to around 3.5%, the lowest in roughly 50 years. Headlines screamed that America had the strongest job market in decades. Politicians campaigned on record job numbers. But when you zoom in on what work actually felt like for the average person, it was a different story. Despite jobs coming back, unaffordability started creeping up due to government money printing when they bailed out the banks. Productivity was on the rise, corporate profits soared, and CEO pay skyrocketed. But the median paycheck for everyday workers barely kept up with inflation. Housing prices and rent started increasing faster than incomes in many cities. Tuition prices kept climbing, forcing people to take on larger loans they would eventually have to pay off, but even basics like groceries, utilities, and transportation started taking a bigger chunk of people's income. And year after year, the middle class started to dissolve. Nearly a decade after the Great Recession, millions of people were still underemployed and far behind where they should have been. But as some people were finally starting to stand on their own 2 feet, landing a stable full-time job, building up savings to live the American dream, well, they got screwed once again.
In central China, a man has died following an outbreak of an unknown pneumonia-like virus, which officials say comes from the same family as the deadly SARS virus.
COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
In a matter of months, the pandemic created the fastest job market collapse in modern history. By April of 2020, about 22 million jobs were wiped out, and unemployment exploded to 14.8%, which was higher than the Great Depression's peak of around 10%, just like millennials in 2008.
So in 2008, you had the housing crisis. okay, and people were still recovering from that, you know. And as people started to get back on their feet, okay, they got hit with the pandemic, and all this is systemic. All right, systematic. The so-called white man Esau Edom, okay, he's intentionally doing this, and what you people are going to find out the very hard way is that your government has been at war with you for a long time. Okay, they've been at war with you for a long time. You see, and it really intensified, from the time of Reagan until now. These corporations, all right, have been coming, more and more in control of society. Okay, so what we're seeing is the last leg, okay, of the old government democracy, okay, being dismantled, all right, and all the wealth, the power, okay, the leverage of society is being handed over to the technocrats, okay, because it's the bankers that's causing, all right, this economic, crisis, man, the job market crisis, man. It's the elites, okay, they're getting ready to roll out a new world order, okay, in which they have control like never before, all right, and they want you people to be in a desperate situation, okay, before they present this thing as a solution, man. So all these things are being sabotaged intentionally, man. There's nothing wrong with the economy. It's working exactly how it's supposed to work. Nothing is broken. It's running exactly how it's supposed to, and it's rigged. Okay, so 2020, this just jump started, because 2008, was a step forward. Okay, and then 2020 was a leap forward to this new world order. Okay, and what we seen in 2025, all right, the emergence of AI infrastructure. Okay, and now in 2026, that's the year that you're going to see, we're more than likely going to see AI acceleration. Okay, which is going to accelerate more job loss. Okay, so let's let it play some more.
Gen Z's introduction to postgraduate life was a job market that had just been destroyed. In only 8 weeks since the outbreak, a decade of job gains were erased, and entire sectors got annihilated. Restaurants, retail, tourism, hospitality, events, small businesses, pretty much everyone was affected. For ages 16 to 24, unemployment spiked to 24%, meaning around 1 in 4 young workers were out of a job, and even for people between 25 and 54, unemployment hit a peak of 11.3%.
When you have the perfect response, eating, retyping.
Yet, out of all of the chaos, things started to temporarily improve, and we entered a weird recovery phase. On paper, things healed quick. Unemployment fell back down, job openings rebounded, and news outlets talked about a hot labor market. However, the structure of work had fundamentally changed, and time was ticking for how long this recovery was actually going to last. Working from home went from a rare perk to the default way of life for millions of workers, and by mid-2020, roughly a third of all paid workdays were now happening at home. At first, it felt like freedom. You didn't have to commute, you could wear whatever you wanted, in 1 minute you could be taking a meeting, and in the next you could be with your family. So in a way, it felt like a dream, but unfortunately, soon the nightmare was to come. People began to realize they weren't just working from home, they were living at work. Bedrooms became offices. You were expected to log on earlier and stay later, since technically your house was the workplace, and messages began bleeding into the nights and on weekends. Meanwhile, remote work gave companies a dangerous new idea. If your job could be done from anywhere, then why pay you a full-time salary when they could pay someone from a third world country pennies on the dollar for the exact same job? Quietly, more and more companies started experimenting with global hiring and offshore contracts. Instead of hiring a local where they would need to pay them a certain amount, they could hire someone just as capable in a lower wage country for a fraction of the cost. For the first time at scale, white-collar workers were in direct competition with people from the entire planet, not just in a local city or country. In order to make firing these expensive employees easier and getting the replacements online sooner, companies started implementing return to office mandates as a form of leverage. Studies found that in-office mandates actually hurt employee satisfaction and retention, which on the surface sounds like something a company wouldn't want. But what it did do was increase the amount of turnover, especially in female, senior, and more skilled employees who could then be replaced for cheaper options. But slowly, things started getting worse because around the world, as years went on, rumors of layoffs and hiring freezes began circulating among colleagues. The tech industry became
So the work from home, era, due to the C-19, showed these companies that, look, we can hire overseas for people to work remotely. All right, pay them less money. Okay, so they started, they got people comfortable with working from home. People moved out of state, because look, I can work from home, so I can move. I can live somewhere cheaper, work from home. I'm winning. Okay, and then they cause people, they call people to come back to work, and they intentionally wanted people to be frustrated and quit or not be able to do it because you had people, move out of state, and that's where you get a lot of people now living in RVs and mobile homes. All right, well, RVs and what you call them, campers. Yeah, RVs and campers. Okay, because they was fired from their remote, their once remote job. Okay, for not being able to come back to work. Okay, and what did the companies do? They just hire people overseas, okay, to do, the same job remotely. Okay, this is the America is the biggest scam the earth has ever seen. Okay, and these corporations don't give a damn. You see, so there's another part. Jobs have been outsourced. Any job that can be done remotely started to be outsourced globally. So now you Edomites are competing with the earth because remember these technocrats on the global government. Okay, they're erasing these borders amongst these nations. Okay, and they're carving out the earth. All right, globally amongst these technocrats, man. Okay, so the earth is being taken away. Okay, the power structure is being taken away from these governments. The French government, the British government, the German government, the American government, to corporations. Okay, and they're carving, the earth into new global regions under technocracy, man. Okay, and you people are feeling the brunt of it. Okay,
the canary in the coal mine. After overhiring in 2021, big names like Meta, Robinhood, and other companies started announcing wave after wave of layoffs between 2022 and 2024. The headlines always said the same thing, like restructuring and to focus on priorities, which really meant they were cutting costs, they stopped backfilling roles, they were going to stretch teams thinner, and adopted a do more with less mindset. But then the time was up. This is when the job market really started to break. By late 2025, US unemployment sits around the mid 4% range, higher than in 2019, but nowhere near the disasters of 2008 or 2020. Politicians cling to these stats, bragging about how the job market is strong, and they point to things like total employment counts, GDP, and stocks hitting new all-time highs, which on paper looks great. Just like every other time until it wasn't. Job growth has slowed. Job openings are down from their post-pandemic peaks, layoffs are happening everywhere, and the rate of unemployment is rapidly rising. Politicians hide the fact that the record job numbers are almost all temporary jobs, while full-time positions fall rapidly, leading to underemployment being everywhere you look. A huge share of workers counted as employed are actually stuck working part-time or dead-end jobs that don't come close to matching their degree or skill level and are often far underpaid versus what they should actually.
I lost a lot of weight recently and none of my clothes fit right anymore, but my Stitch Fix stylist, Stephanie, she nailed it. Let me
be making. Because of this, more people than ever before are relying on side hustles or gig work just to make up for not having a full-time job, using things like Uber, Etsy, DoorDash to make some extra cash. But it isn't like people aren't trying to get hired, because it is very common for people to be sending hundreds of applications a week, but unfortunately, the hiring process has become something entirely new. Traditionally, when you would apply, a human would actually review your application, but now almost every single company uses applicant tracking systems. These programs manage almost the entire hiring process, from job postings to tracking candidates, but most importantly for companies, they filter and screen out applications. Got laid off and took some time for your mental health? Rejected. Switched companies too early? Rejected. Experience doesn't match the software template? Rejected. Any inconsistency, whether it's the wrong keyword or formatting, gets your application thrown out of the system before a human even looks at it. Meanwhile, boomers love to tell us to just walk into the CEO's office and hand them a physical resume. But let's be honest, 1, it would piss them off, and 2, we would probably be escorted out by security. But things get worse, because for people applying to jobs, now they have to face something called ghost listings, which is exactly as it sounds. Many companies will post job listings with no real intention of having it filled, so they appear like they're growing, which makes them seem healthier to investors. This means you'll never hear back. You'll be left in the dark, waiting for a response that will never come. Meanwhile, you question your own abilities. But even if the job is real and you're lucky enough to land an interview, this part of the process has essentially turned into psychological abuse. Nowadays, it is completely normal to go through multiple rounds of interviews, sometimes 5, 6, or 7, paired with take-home tasks or projects, only for applicants to end up ghosted in the end. In fact, things have gotten so bad that some people realize that after completing these projects or trial tasks, they wouldn't be hired, but the company would steal the idea and implement it without them. A Greenhouse report found that 61% of job seekers were ghosted by employers at least once after an interview, and the average applicant loses dozens of hours of unpaid work per ghosted process. But for the people who do get hired, it is extremely difficult for them to be there permanently, because now companies primarily hire on a contract basis. This means they don't need to give you healthcare benefits, they don't need to contribute to retirement funds, they don't need to give you paid time off, which saves money for the corporation. Meanwhile, they will happily take advantage of these contract workers, dangling the idea of a permanent position in front of them just so they will work harder and go above and beyond, only for the company to never actually give them that position. But what about the entry-level jobs? Well, nowadays, those often require 3 to 5 years of experience, and to make matters worse, the pay which is offered is what someone would have made for the same role 15 years ago. But you can't even negotiate, because employers know that you're desperate, and even if you don't take the position, someone else will. Yet, the chaotic hiring process is just one of the many issues causing people's mental health to get worse every single day. Surveys show that the share of
and they're able to do this because they know people are desperate. So you come in, you finally get a call back and you come in for an interview and they give you some homework, certain tasks to do, you see, you come back with it, if it's a good idea, they'll take it, all right, and ghost your ass. Okay, people will go to 2, 3, 4, interview process, ghosted. All that time you wasted, okay, for nothing, man. You see, and they're able to do this because there's far more jobs. There's far more people looking for jobs than there are jobs. So they're able, you're not able to negotiate pay, being underpaid. Okay, this is a very tyrannical system, man. And this is the same corporations, okay, that are going to run, okay, a technocracy, man. Okay, the way that these people are playing games and, being shiesty and scamming and, underpaying you, these are the same people that's going to run this technocracy, man, through AI. All right, it's another part. He said, most applications don't make it through AI. Okay. You said you had the guy at the beginning say he put in 1,500 applications, man. Okay. So you catching hell making it through AI. And that's what the New World Order is going to be. You're going to be interacting with AI while the elites are chilling. Okay, while AI is running the earth, while AI is governing the earth. Okay, the elites are going to be chilling. Okay, experimenting on you, through biohacking, trying to tap into, longer lifespans by using you as a guinea pig. Okay, a lab rat. You see, the New World Order is going to be absolutely, all right, a nightmare beyond the nightmare. Okay, but we know the Lord is not going to allow the devil, to fully establish this thing, man. But he's gonna he's gonna turn the key in the ignition. Okay, the Lord's gonna allow him, to turn the ignition over, before he's judged. You see, so let's play this a little more.
People who say their mental health is excellent has dropped dramatically compared to pre-2020 levels. Rates of anxiety, depression, burnout, and hopelessness are among the highest among younger adults. And it's not just because work is stressful. It's because most people can't even get work in the first place. And even if you do have a job, the security is at risk thanks to every company's latest obsession.
AI is no longer an abstract threat. It's causing job loss right now, and the headlines, they tell the story.
Reports from banks and consultants estimate that hundreds of millions of jobs worldwide could be automated or heavily changed by AI, with advanced economies like the US and Europe seeing roughly a quarter of jobs deeply affected. And the roles which are first on the chopping block, exactly the one young workers are supposed to start in, like information processing, basic analysis, clerical work, and customer support. The entry-level ladder you were supposed to start your corporate climb on has completely disappeared. Companies like Amazon have already started cutting tens of thousands of jobs, saying that as they roll out more generative AI and agents, it should change the way that work is done, needing fewer people doing some of the jobs that are being done today. But it isn't just Amazon. It is almost every single company you could possibly think of, even if they don't have AI working at 100%, meaning they are pre-firing people over the hope of what AI might be able to do someday. And at the same time, the goalpost for the employed keeps moving further away. You're told to constantly relearn and reskill just to keep your job, like learning how to code, learning data, and learning prompt engineering. So while we're at it, why not just try and learn everything in the universe? These days, specialized workers are fewer and fewer. You're expected to know how to do it all, especially in smaller companies and nonprofits. But all of this is happening in a job market where companies are looking for the very first excuse to possibly let you go. Corporate profits, they're at record highs. Stock buybacks for investors, it's happening nonstop. CEO compensation, it's the highest it's ever been. The gap between workers and executives has never been so far apart. Companies that are doing layoffs are often still profitable, with their excuse being that they're convinced they need to reorganize to be more lean, with fewer layers and more ownership so they can move quickly for their customers and business, which is the corporate way of saying that they're going to try and make the most money possible while cutting off any additional costs, even if that means it's you. And some people think it's only white-collar workers being affected, but in reality, it's everyone, especially in trades impacted by tariffs. While it is true that blue-collar sectors are harder to automate, it's also true that they are the most impacted by tariff inflation. Manufacturing jobs hit a 3.5-year low. Over the last 3 months, between industries like transportation and warehousing, there has been an average loss of around 18,000 jobs. But even looking at things like mining and logging, payrolls are down by an average of 2,000. Boomers keep trying to tell us there are plenty of jobs that we just don't want to work and that we should stop complaining because they had it hard too.
And I really think these young people need to understand, work harder. Do better. Stop blaming others. Blame yourself.
Which is insane gaslighting, considering today we're competing with people from all around the world, which they never had to do. And on top of that, we are now competing with super intelligence in the form of AI. The problem is the deal that previous generations grew up with has been destroyed over the last 2 decades. But if you try and point that out, you're told to just shut up and stop complaining. The truth is simple. The job market is broken. You didn't break it, but you're the one being forced to live through this disaster. So if you learned something from this video,
finish. All right. only gets worse. There's no good news, okay, for Babylon. All right, so let's go here to the book of Zechariah, the 8th chapter. It's in the AMP as well. Okay, yeah, man. So your hope, is in, this economy, this system. Okay, you're optimistic. You're thinking it's going to rebound somehow, some way. It always does. Nah, man, you finna be in a pitiful case. Okay, this is Zechariah 8 and 10. It said, "For before those days there was no wages for man or animal, nor was there any peace or success for him who went out or came in because of his enemies. For I set all men against one another." Okay, and see what you people have to understand: your government is your enemy. Okay, your government is your ops. Okay, and they're dismantling, all right, this old system, and they don't care how it affects you. Okay, and they want some of you to be unalive in the process. A lot of you, take that back, not some, a lot of you to be unalive in this process. It's going to get way more brutal than this. Okay, I say today's complaints, okay, are going to be luxuries compared to what's coming. You're going to wish in the time to come that your biggest problem was finding a new job. Okay, because this is going to slide into a very violent and hostile situation. Okay, so the job market collapsing is just a phase going into civil unrest. Okay, the scripture speak of because of what? Because of lack of bread. Okay, and you Israelites, that depend on this place, all right, to nourish you forever, you're going to be extremely disappointed. Okay, you people, and it showed you, just the thought of the loss of food stamps, and you Israelites lost it, man. Well, listen, all these things are going to go away. Food stamps, jobs, the economy, all these things are going to go away. Okay, and the prophets have been, sounding the alarm. Okay, so as people, think things to go, they expect some type of recovery. Nah, man, it's just gonna get worse before it gets worse. Okay, and you can just feel 2026. All right, getting ready to take the top off. Okay, Abaratazah. So let's go here. This is 2nd Ezra 9 and 9. It said, "Then shall they be in pitiful case, which have now abused my ways, and they that have cast them away despitefully shall dwell in torments." Okay, so you Israelites that have ignored the prophets through the midst of all this, man, you're going to dwell in torments. You're going to be in a pitiful case, man, because it only gets worse. "For such as in their life have received benefits and have not known me." Okay, so you Israelites, here it is, the Lord has raised his prophets. Okay, and before these things have happened, before things get bad, before it gets chaotic, before judgment goes forth, you see, and you refuse to know the Lord. All right, and the Lord has raised his men, to teach, to warn, to edify in these times. And if you ignore that warning, okay, you're going to dwell in torments. It's going to be a very bad time, the worst time ever, thus said the Lord. Okay, so I want to get this here. All right, and we can end it here. This book of Sirach, chapter 5 and verse 7 says, "Make no tarrying to turn to the Lord," because this is the point of these lessons, man. We're not just going into these things because we're interested into, we're so, interested in this man's economy. No, we go into these things because of prophecy's sake. These are indicators of where we at according to prophecy, man. It said, "Make no tarry to turn to the Lord, and put not off from day to day. For suddenly shall the wrath of the Lord come forth, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed and perish, and perish in the day of vengeance," man. Because people, find security in their job, the savings account. 401ks, this economy in general always, bouncing back and some way of stimulus check or something coming through for them. Okay. And they made, a captivity their arrest. Okay. So our people, who still look at this place as being secure, all right, is their security, is their safety net, they're going to be destroyed in the midst of it, man. All right, because the Lord is bringing wrath on this place, man. The Lord is bringing punishment and torments on this place, man. Okay, it's above, what the elites plan on doing. Okay, ultimately, the Lord is judging. All right, so that was the point. Just wanted to get into that Lord will, you brothers. All right, and you sisters edified once again. And give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Kakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples towards younger brothers, and peace and blessings, salutations, hopefully, shalom.